we are, Eddie. The time has come. Time to
Yeah,
deal with the disappointment of the Florida Panthers sending the Edmonton Oilers packing
yeah.
for home empty handed. Eddie?
One last time, Gary. One last time. Thank you for that wonderful intro. Well, Gary, the Stanley Cup. I've said it often. It's the most difficult trophy and championship to win in all of professional sport. The Stanley Cup, it represents hockey glory for the past 132 years. It was first awarded as a Challenge Cup in 1893 and awarded by Frederick Arthur Stanley, who happened to be the Governor General of this beautiful country of ours called Canada, and was presented to the top amateur team in Canada. Now, that first team, take a wild guess where it came from that won this Challenge Cup, Gary.
The first in Montreal.
That was in Montreal, of course, to a team known as the Montreal Amateur Athletic Association, who were the first Stanley Cup champions in 1883. Gary, Stanley Cup championships, as you well know, tales of horrific injuries players endure and play through. They're so numerous. Tales of the cup getting damaged during celebrations. And you know what, Gary? It's only been 24 hours, and this year is absolutely no exception. This Stanley Cup, which was won by the Montreal Canadiens an astounding 24 times, Gary, and followed by the Toronto Maple Leafs, who won 13, last one back in 1967.
I knew
And
you were going to zing in there.
I couldn't resist. And the last Canadian team to win it was the Montreal Canadiens back in 1993. So, of course, this year, just like with last year, all the hopes of Canada has been on the shoulders of the Edmonton Oilers to finally bring the comeback home to Canada. And last night, Gary, alas, the far better team won. All 34 and a half pounds of Lord Stanley's chalice was hoisted by the defending champions, the Florida Panthers, who have won their second cup in a row in the last three Stanley Cup appearances. Gary, this series wasn't even close. Last year went to Game 7. This year, Game 6, and they got roasted again yesterday, 5-1. You know what? And I talked to you about this before. So much for my theory that the team with the most Canadian players wins. that wasn't the case this year, although on the Florida Panther team, the majority of the players are Canadian, so at least I'll go with that for now. And you know what? The Florida Panthers were in a class by themselves. One of the records that they just hit was that they led the Cup Finals for 255 minutes. That means the Edmonton Oilers, pretty much the entire series except for one game, were playing catch-up hockey most of the time. I mean, they either got scored in the first period very early, they were down 2 goals very quickly, and actually getting scored on in late periods. And my good buddy Joe out in BC, he was absolutely right when we started talking about Stanley Cup predictions, and I said, the Edmonton Oilers are going to get up in there and they have a good chance to win the cup. And Joe, at the end of the day, was right. Shoddy defense, which you and I both saw in the games, and inconsistent goaltending, which came to bear during the Stanley Cup series. And you know what? I really hope that the Edmonton Oilers are learning, unlike the Maple Leafs, that you can't have 50% plus in your salaries tied up to the top 4 or 6 elite players and expect to win a cup. Oilers are very much like that with Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and a few other players that form, that gobble up most of the salary cap, just like the Maple Leafs in their core 4. You shut down those players, what's left? You look at the Florida Panthers. I mean, these guys are so balanced right across all 4 lines, all positions, and there are no superstars. They play hard hockey, goaltending, and defense wins championships, Gary. And I think that's what we saw. And it's rather unfortunate for the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, they freewheel, they skate hard, fast hockey, but that's just one component of hockey. I mean, it's got to be goaltending, great defense, and hard grit up front. You can't rely on just superstars. And of course, this year, another story was Sam Bennett, who won the Conn Smythe for playoff MVP. Well deserved. I really thought that um, Greg's main man from the Maritimes, Brad Marchand, former Boston Bruins captain. I really thought he was going to win the Conn Smythe. I call him an Oiler killer the last episode. He scored two in Game 5 against the Edmonton Oilers. I think he scored 5 or 6 against the Edmonton Oilers. And you know what? For a veteran, it's so good to see the Rat actually continuing to make an impact, even though he's playing for a different team. And by the way, the last time that Brad Marchand won a Stanley Cup was with the Bruins in 2011. So it's a 14-year gap between winning cups, and I think that's the third longest in NHL history. And the other story is Matt Tkachuk. I mean, last year he played with a fractured sternum, where his brother had to help him get undressed and redressed and shower him. He was so hurt. This year, Gary, this guy played with a tendon torn from his bone. You know how painful that's got to be playing with a tendon torn
Wow.
from your bone?
Yeah.
And he had a hernia in the same abdominal area. And he played and he scored yesterday and he hit. So it's not just a Matt Tkachuk thing. This is an when you're playing hockey at the highest level in the world, you are going to get bumps and bruises. And you're playing exhibition games. You're playing 82 regular season games. You're playing potentially up to 28 playoff games if they go 7 games in a series. I mean, this is one tough sport. And you know what? Hats off to Matt Tkachuk. Hats off to the Florida Panthers, Edmonton Oilers for making the playoffs, and hats off to all the 800 plus employees being players of the National Hockey League for playing in one of the most difficult sports there is in the world. And it was a great playoff series. Were captivating. Although this Stanley Cup was not what I expected it to be, it was still a wonderful series.